like every 26 minutes or so, apparently one woman is raped or some, that's a statistic. And furthermore, we don't know how many people actually report those rapes. So while you have a gigantic number of people who are being raped, there is an even smaller amount of people who are actually reporting that rape. So within, you may have all of these, these plans and these laws to stop rape from happening, but if you don't educate your people right, they will continue to rape, because people don't really read the constitution for fun. We have to read it as part of school, but how much do we actually remember? How much of the IPC do we actually
And
know?
how much do they actually
There's a
put
very
in like education? How much of the
Yeah,
constitution do they
exactly.
actually
There's
put?
another issue there, precisely. So yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of laws, like from the time of the British in India, we do have a lot of laws, but nobody follows them, and that's where the system and the system's failure lies. So yeah.
And like Johanna said, right, that even fewer, like a very less number of people even report it. And that we are talking only about rape. We are not addressing catcalling. We are not addressing
That's
verbal abuse. We are not addressing even mental abuse for that matter. Because the sexual assault or any kind of assault could have a lot of implications, right? And it could, if it happened once, just as an act, it could still prolong. Like a person could still keep on saying that I did this to your body, I could do this to your body because I am capable of doing this. Like you said, the man who said that I'm hungry. For him, it didn't mean that that could even devastate someone. For him, he was just being, I don't know, just insanely honest. And or maybe his animalistic tendencies were so on point that he didn't realize that this is something that shouldn't be done. And for others to witness this and still not take it seriously says a lot about people's empathy and apathy levels. It just says a lot. Need or want such a big incident. You don't need a rape to tell you how
that it's
bad
wrong.
this is. Yeah.
No, I was saying that it's been ingrained, as as you mentioned, especially in India. We all talk about log kya kahenge and all of that stuff, but it's something that is so ingrained. As you said, the first reaction to if someone says that they've been raped, or if someone accuses someone, the first reaction is how to prove that person. Although that's how the justice works: innocent till proven guilty. But that's the first thing that they do, right? So I think it's also because traditionally we've just been, again, formulated and trained that this is, if something like this happens, it's not a good thing, or like not a good thing to talk about, or like not a natural thing to talk about. Now I want to get into a little bit about the accusers themselves, and there are two major things that I want to get into. Now the first thing that I want to talk about is accusers saying that they are able to do something like this because they either suffer from a mental condition or a physical condition. Now, just before you answer, I just want to put something out there to our viewers. All this, we always talk about mental health. So this conversation that we're about to have, I don't know what they're going to say, but I have a feeling it might seem a little bit contradictory to what we always say about mental health. But you have to understand that people are very easily taking the route of saying that I did this because I have this mental disorder, or I've been taking a lot of time for my mental health to get better. So what would you guys say? What would you both say about something like this?
See, I think most often than not, these people are mentally ill only if they are checked on it, right? If they are given a certificate that they are mentally not healthy, unless they are not given that certificate, it's on them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are tests in place. There are, before giving anyone, what is that called? Like them, before you convict them,
yeah.
there are a lot of tests that are in place, right? So a team of psychologists and even clinical or even psychiatrists do the diagnosis. But I think unless that happens and they get a clean sheet, or even if they are referred to counseling or whatever, then unless that happens, it's on them. It cannot be used as a reason to justify any act, even as small as just making fun of someone that, oh, I'm like this. it cannot be
Yeah.
used. Yeah, people who have the mental illnesses, but they are not rapists or not assaulters, are not abusers. There is fundamentally something wrong with their brain. Yes, it could be the apathy, or there is something fundamentally wrong with the way they have been raised.
Yeah.
I feel like with people who have done horrible crimes, I feel like they somehow sometimes perceive mental health issues to be their get out of jail free card, you know. So, you know, I could, for instance, you know, kill someone and then say, oh yeah, it's because I'm schizophrenic, you know. It doesn't work like that. No, and I do agree with you. You do need to have a proper prescription, and you know, you have to be assessed by doctors. You have to have a critical evaluation before you can say that, you know, I am
Yes.
sick
Yeah.
in the head, I need help. You know, I can't just download D-test or depression test on
Yeah.
my phone and say, oh yeah, you know, apparently according to this, I have
Yeah, and even
medium.
after that, like, you need to go and do the needful, right? If suppose I am diagnosed as someone who is indifferent to a lot of stimulus, who doesn't feel pain. So, but then I need to do something for myself and not just go and rape someone,
Yeah. Yeah.
or not just go and demean or degrade someone
Yeah.
else's presence.
Well, I just read something on Instagram just now, like literally just as we took the break, about a person who was falsely accused. A young man, he was 17 years old. His name was Manav. I don't have the last name details. And this, I was reading about him. A girl had come out and said that this person had molested and raped him, or raped her, Manav, and he had killed himself. Now, what after all of that happened, they found out that the story that the girl had put out, as of now, I'm just saying as of now because we don't know how quickly it builds up, was not true, and that these were false accusations. Now, what I wanted to get into basically through that story is I wanted to talk about false accusations and the implications of something like that.
The thing with false accusations is that it does not benefit either party, because the person who has been allegedly raped is not getting much justice, because at some point all of those lies are going to like fall flat, and then the blame's going to be on you, and you're going to be questioned about whether you were actually being serious, and whether, you know, you can be taken seriously again, you know, the whole you cry wolf situation.
Yeah.
And the other way is the allegedly accused person who's committed the crime. You can have something as horrible as that 12th grader who killed himself
Yeah, that's
in Delhi. It could be that bad, you know, because at the end of the day, if everyone you know is working against you, then you have nobody to confide in. You have nobody you can trust. And then you're just left alone. You have no reason to do anything anymore. So it doesn't benefit either side. And people who falsely accuse, I don't think that they fully realize the repercussions of their actions, because, you know, you can say one thing today and then you can't take it back the next day,
Yeah.
and that is going to live on forever. And I don't think people realize that when they make these decisions.
One thing that I wanted to point out actually about false accusations, unless you have something, I'll just finish as quickly, is that unfortunately another person that false accusations demerit, which is not just to the accuser, the false accused and the accuser, but is also to the rest of society, in the terms that as much as like how you said it becomes cry wolf to that person, it also becomes a cry wolf situation to every single accuser that is there, because everyone gets more skeptical, and then it feeds into the cycle of people not believing stories, as you said, or believing what has happened.
It's very seldom that someone accuses someone else of such a grave thing.
Mhm.
And if they do, then obviously there is something really wrong with that person who is falsely like accusing someone else, and they need to be cross verified again and again. You need to cross question them again and again, because this boy committing suicide is something that is a very big shock for me, because I may be called a bad person on a daily basis. I may be accused of a lot of things, even let's say violating someone.
Yeah.
But how do I deal with it? So it's just not about the false accusation. It's about how resilient the person is who is involved in this. How able are they? How is their support system? So it basically comes down to the support system, because it's not just that a thing or an accusation should have such a grave impact on any teenager's or any adult's life, because that is something that cannot be justified. I mean, even the people who are rightly accused do not do this, which is, yeah.
Okay, and now we go on to something that is very recent, and I'm sure we've all heard about it. But I actually wanted to talk about it in a little bit of a different perspective now that a lot has happened afterwards. So we're going to have a small discussion about the boys' locker room, the whole situation. Now, surprisingly, about the boys' locker room situation, we're all going to get heated about this, but this case of the boy Manav who killed himself, a lot of people were saying that he was one of the boys on the locker room, which is not true. Just to put it out to anyone who didn't know, those are two very separate cases. This story is going to help tie in everything that we've spoken about. That's kind of what I wanted to go into. So we knew that there was a group chat. We knew that they got exposed. We knew that one of the exposers was found out as being, very mean, and apparently even she was also allegedly a part of another rape case or something like that. And we also know that there's another unrelated, but still, because all of this conversation is happening at the same time, another unrelated girls' locker room chat. So that's all the information, and in a really small nutshell, that has been given. Now, the main thing that I want to talk about is the responses of all the parties in this situation. And I don't want to get into the exposers, because I feel like their response was to expose these people, which is a good response, which is what I want to get into in a minute. But us as a community, I mean, people saw me pop off about it. I'm sure Johanna posted about it. I know that you also have posted about it. As a community, the way, I think the most disappointing thing is the way that people have reacted to it. The main thing that they've said is that this happens to everybody, or like it happens all the time. It's a normal thing, which is, the whole thing is we have normalized this, but we are not normalizing, like, I give this example about, even like rape. You don't go and say, oh, rapes happen all the time, so it's normal news, right? So for this situation, I wanted you guys to give your insight about what you know, at least about the responses of people, not about the situation itself, because we all can collectively agree that it is a bad situation. But the responses is what I wanted to talk about. After all, we are talking about the after effects.
See, I have heard from both the parties, as in both the genders, as of
Yes.
now. And I have heard girls saying that, why is it such a big deal?
Mhm.
I have heard boys saying that, so even girls' locker rooms exist. So it's, at the end of the day, it's just a blame game and nobody is willing to take responsibility, which is just sad. And then there are people who are like, what is the impact that this will have? People will continue to live. So why even bother? And again, it comes down to, yeah, tell me.
I just wanted to point out also, the boys, just like recently I just found out that they also were arrested and their devices have been taken away from them. So that's another update about the case. But yeah,
Yeah, but
yes.
what about their minds, right?
Yeah.
And what about the way they are as a human? And just not boys, even girls, because we think that it's pretty okay if girls do that, if girls objectify men. It's not. It's not. And maybe as a society we are not aware of what girls do, because we've considered that they are docile and they won't be doing such things, but even they are pretty insensitive sometimes when it comes to a lot of matters. But sticking to this, making it okay and saying that, so it's not that harmful, it's not that detrimental, is something that speaks volumes about our sensitivity levels.
Johanna is left. I think she'll join in a second. Um, there's one more thing which I can, add on to your point, which is that a lot of the times when these cases and something like this blows up on the internet, and I use internet specifically. Joanna, I was just saying that a lot of times when something like this blows up on the internet, just like how we talked about the Nirbhaya case, similarly something like this, again, we know we have, like, I can say out right now, I've already pointed it out and I've already said it in my personal account stories. um we know people, I know people who have these chats, I know people who have done and said worse things directly to people and that chat. And it's not that we've been, I think what has happened is we've all been waiting for something like this to happen, and I think that's usually what happens, right? We all wait. Unfortunately, we as people, we may not want to take the stand on our own. So we all wait for something as big as this. So when it did happen and I was extremely triggered by it, I let that be. I wasn't, because the thing is, I wasn't pointing it out just at those 30 people in a Delhi chat. I was saying it to every single person who has done something like this. Girl, boy, does not matter, because it does happen. Like, look at all male celebrities. If you see their Instagram posts and everything, they see, you always see stuff like, oh, very, okay, I'm not going to say any of them, but it's very derogatory things being said about them. And they're supposed to just take it, which is similar to the situation that I was saying, when if a man gets sexually assaulted, he's meant to be
Yes.
okay with that type of praise. So that's another thing that ruined. Another thing that I think if Joanna can add more upon, is the responses of the accused. I don't think I've ever seen a response like that. That's kind of what pissed me off more. How the accused responded to this. So Joanna, if you could, elaborate. Why do you think they did something? We
Okay,
can't say that
so
they're
I
stupid.
strongly believe that.
We need to give, yeah, they are, but we have to like give something a little bit more intricate than that. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. I strongly believe that if you're not saying anything against the problem, you are being part of it.
Yeah.
So, like with Nirbhaya's case, or at least what I remember from it, I never remember a reporter asking about how she felt. It was always, what her parents thought, or
Yeah.
what the rapists thought, or, what the judge will say. It was never about her, but it was actually all about her.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered getting a statement from her. And I think it's the same thing with the boys' locker room. Like when it was exposed, there were so many girls that were being talked about, but I don't remember any of the girls saying anything against it. And if they had said something, I think there would be a lot more, people would care more about what they thought and what their reactions would be. Because if they chose to react the right way, or at least in what I think is the right way, where they clearly say that, this is not okay, and I hope that, these people
There
who I
were a
have
few. There
known,
were a
these
few girls who
classes,
came out and said, "I'm only 14. I can't believe this happened," and stuff like that. But you know what? You're right, because they didn't directly say that. It came from the girls who were exposing the boys. So you have I know what I mean. I understand what you mean.
yeah, so it is extremely important to address the problem in a way that you are trying to protect the people you care about. So if somebody had said something like that about me, I would say that this is really not okay, so that I'm setting a good example for all of my cousin sisters and my cousin brothers, that I have made a stand against this, and that this is not right. I am setting an example for my classmates and for my my peers and all of them, because I am choosing to not be part of the problem. I am choosing to take a stand and do what I think is right, and call them out for their shitty actions, and then also call out the girls for saying shit like that,
Yeah.
because that's still not okay. You cannot degrade somebody based on how they look. You cannot say things about them that degrade them that way. And I think just by talking about it, as somebody who is involved in it, directly or indirectly, you are already doing something about the problem.
But I think, you know what again, something that upset me, and I think it is, I hate to say it, but it is inbred internal sexism about a situation in that whole thing. Do you realize there's an account, I wish I could remember the name of the account. I lost it out of anger. There's an account which posted an entire post with like 6 slides about the girl who was saying derogatory things about being homophobic and being she was saying all those things. What astounds me is that that same account posted one picture for Boys Lock. Now, I mean, objectively, you might not find it gender, but the fact that they did something like that just shows that people allowed that story of that girl to be diverted. And I will tell you this right now. I have someone personally in my life who said that what that girl said and did was worse than Boys Locker Room. So, and you know, it did bother me a lot, and it did piss me off. But at the same time, I don't understand, but I do understand why she said that. I don't stand by it, but I understand that it is completely gendered. Because imagine how quickly you can just be like, oh right, this girl said it, so it's fine. Like whatever the guy said, it's fine. This girl has done it, so the problem has been solved. Which thank God it did not end up like that. I mean, the boys are still arrested, consequences are still made. But the fact that they just switched over to that girl, and what she did was wrong. Like as Joanna said, completely it is wrong. But the fact again, the people just fail to see to weigh those situations. It's like when you weigh a murder and a theft, both things are crimes at the end of the day. But which one is more morally wrong? Like you have to think about all these things. And I think people just chose very conveniently, especially people who were in support of the guys. You can tell that they were more vocal about this girl and being like, this girl is a hypocrite. How can she say this thing? How can she say these things and all? And at the end of the day, I have to say, I mean, I might regret the statement later, but I have to say that she did the right thing. She was maybe a bad person, but she did expose these guys. Without her as well, although there were other exposers, we would not have known about the situation. So she did do that. She took herself down, the ship dragged her into, that is completely true. But she still did that, and you can't discredit that information either, what she has put out. So yeah, so
She
that,
might be a mediator, but like she wasn't the right mediator. I mean,
yes, she wasn't the right
she could
one.
have been, yeah. And also, like these people who support these boys and who support this culture, it's very triggering to be a part of this society where this is encouraged and this is supported, because it has been happening since the time I was in school, which is really long back. And when we were called names, or we were called things, and we would say that, then it would have been okay. But after so many years, still it is okay, and that astounds me, because I thought that we as a generation have evolved, or our parents have evolved, and we must have been parented in a different way, or you must have been reared in a different way, but it's just the same. It's just the same, and that is surprising.
Yeah, we hope that the next generation is going to be better off than us, and that we're leaving them in a world that is more safe and more secure. But the scary reality is there are always a few of us who make the wrong decisions, who choose to perpetuate these prejudices, and who choose to who choose to act a certain way that a lot of people secretly agree with and then reinforce in their own homes.
yeah.
Right.
So
And
it
I
may
think,
not be an entire generation's problem. It is just a few people who have passed on those extremely derogatory ideologies, and I would say, perceptions of the way society is supposed to be.
Okay. Do you guys have any closing statements?
In the Indian Penal Code, Section 375 made punishable the act of sex by a man with a woman if it was done against her will or without her consent. Furthermore, Section 376 provided for 7 years of jail term to life imprisonment to whoever commits the offense of rape. So it's not that we don't have laws prohibiting rape and making it illegal. We do. People just don't know about it and don't care. So I think my closing statement would be that we do require a systematic change in how we tackle rape and how we tackle sex education and how we tackle issues that affect a majority of our population, because these things are happening now and they are happening here. And if we don't change now, then we are only setting a bad example for the people who are going to come after us.
Yeah. I think there are 3 points that I would want to state to just summarize this entire conversation. I think first would be that we need to start from the basics. We need to start from the basics. If you are a parent, from the time you have had 2 kids who are of the different gender, start raising them equally, start treating them with respect equally. And I'm not saying this about the physical ability, but about the cerebral ability, right? If a girl is sitting a certain way, you have to be okay with it if the boy is sitting the same way. So instead of having a far-fetched expectation of having the government or having the legal authorities take action, I think we should start. Somebody needs to start. I mean, even a teacher needs to be okay with how girls dress up or how boys dress up and not differentiate between it. And that was one of the things. And secondly, empathy needs to be developed. Like, you need to join classes for it if you do not have it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. If you do not have that skill, you need to develop it. And thirdly, we cannot wait for something as grave as rape to happen. You need to address in what forms anything is happening, and with regards to any gender, man, woman, regardless, you need to just accept it and you need to be vocal about it. Like, no matter how much ever disappointment or how much ever disbelief you've faced, but you have to keep going at it, because they are going at it, they still are doing it. So we have to also constantly keep voicing our opinions, no matter how much we are tired or how much we are not heard. But we need to just keep doing it, because we don't need more locker rooms to be exposed. We don't need no more nirbhayas. We just need to be more aware and more empathetic, more sensitive towards whatever is happening. Like, I don't need to joke about, it's very simple. Like, I don't have to joke about someone's gender. It's that basic. It's just that basic. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank both of you so much for coming and talking and everything. It takes, as we've been talking about, like the courage and everything to take to speak out about something like this. And even though we're not really speaking about, specificities, we are still talking about it and we're having conversations that we have to also keep mindful. A lot of places, people don't have the opportunity and the accessibility to hear and talk about these things. So it's really, I'm honestly proud of you guys for stepping up and wanting to talk about these things. It's great. And I just want to thank you all for that. So with that, we are done. Goodbye, guys.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.